Someone has to say it, and I suppose it's going to be me. The level of criticism surrounding Caleb Williams on the internet, especially from those outside the Bears organization, has escalated to a point that is honestly surprising. It's become a phenomenon in itself, and today I want to unpack that, break it down, and give some context as to why it's happening and whether it's fair. I mean, let's be honest. Caleb Williams is still early in his NFL career. We haven't even seen him take a regular season snap this year. Yet the speculation, the hot takes, the overreactions, and the doom and gloom scenarios are everywhere. It seems like some voices have already made up their minds, not based on games, not based on film from a full season, but on the smallest details and the most minor aspects of camp. One of the major contributors to this narrative has been Colin Cowherd. Now, let's get this straight. Colin is allowed to have his opinions. He's allowed to critique players however he sees fit, and no one is entitled to a free pass just because they're a high draft pick. But it's hard not to notice the sudden shift in his coverage. Just last season, after Caleb's rookie year, Cowherd was almost a staunch defender of the guy. He supported him, spoke highly of him, defended his performances under tough circumstances, and even pushed back against criticism at times. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, his stance has changed over the last few weeks. Suddenly, Caleb Williams isn't the promising young talent we were all excited about. He's a quarterback on the verge of criticism for things that are arguably premature. For instance, on his podcast feed, Cowherd recently brought up the idea of potentially trading Caleb Williams within the next couple of years if he struggles. He said something along the lines of, if Caleb struggles over the next 2 years, you can move him and get a good pick. He's the type of guy that could be moved and you could get value from him. And look, technically, yes, that's true. If a team has a highly talented quarterback with a #1 draft pedigree and things somehow don't work out, there is value in a trade. But here's the thing. We're talking about this already? We're barely 1 year into his NFL career, and we haven't even seen him start his second season. The Bears have invested heavily in him, in Ben Johnson, and in the rest of the staff this offseason. They've worked to rebuild the offensive line, brought in additional weapons, and laid the groundwork to give him a legitimate shot at success. And yet, instead of letting him grow and seeing how things unfold, we're already discussing the possibility of moving him if he underperforms. That's a conversation for the future, sure. But right now, it feels not just premature, but almost entirely reactionary. Part of this sudden shift also revolves around Caleb not playing in the preseason opener. Cowherd and others have made this a major talking point on FS1, framing it almost as if the Bears are protecting Caleb from the scrutiny of the public. But let's step back and examine what actually happened. Ben Johnson, the head coach, explained the reasoning clearly. It wasn't about shielding Caleb. It was about preparation, practice, and efficiency in training camp. The starters were kept out intentionally to get more reps in controlled situations before and after the game. There was a 75-play throwing session for the starters who did not participate, and those who stayed out got more practice time on Monday than they would have if they had played in the game. So no, this isn't some grand scheme to hide a player. It's simply a strategic approach to managing reps, minimizing injury risk, and improving team readiness before the season officially begins. Yet Cowherd's narrative leaned heavily on the idea of Caleb being treated like a beta product, a tech analogy suggesting he isn't ready for wide release. It's not an accurate portrayal. The reality is far more mundane, practical, and grounded in coaching strategy. Coaches, particularly in the NFL, often manage preseason minutes in very calculated ways. Some starters never play a full preseason game at all, and it doesn't imply weakness, unreadiness, or a failing player. It's about pacing, evaluation, and development. To mischaracterize this as coddling, or to use that analogy, diminishes the complexity of coaching and misrepresents the circumstances entirely. Interestingly, not everyone on Cowherd's network has jumped fully on this critique bandwagon. Nick Wright, for example, pushed back a bit when Colin compared Caleb's absence and perceived lack of readiness to other quarterbacks like Drake May. Wright pointed out that May had very limited preseason reps, played poorly in Week 1, yet no one seemed to make it a headline issue. Contrast that with Caleb, who isn't even playing in a game, and suddenly the speculation and criticism explode. It's a clear demonstration of the double standard or overreaction that has formed around him. Caleb Williams, in this sense, has become perhaps the most scrutinized young quarterback in the NFL, not necessarily because of his performance, but because of the narratives that have taken hold online and on certain shows. Coward has also revisited Caleb's first few practices in camp and used them to support a narrative of inconsistency. Early on, the offense appeared a little choppy, which is not unusual with a new system, new coaches, and a team still finding its rhythm. Any coach or player knows that defenses often hit their stride before offenses in camp, which is exactly what happened here. Yet, Coward took those initial reports and ran with them, portraying it almost as proof that Caleb might not live up to expectations. When the offense improved later, when practices went better, those moments didn't seem to get nearly the same attention. Instead, the narrative fixated on moments of struggle, early-day hiccups, and the hypothetical. Then there's the comparison from Jason McIntyre, another voice in this discussion, who suggested that Caleb Williams could mirror Johnny Manziel's career trajectory. The implication was that if Caleb becomes too reliant on his mobility and playmaking instincts when under pressure, it could be disastrous. But the comparison is fundamentally flawed. Johnny Manziel's career implosion was about commitment, focus, and off-field behavior. Manziel didn't flame out because of his style of play alone. He quit on the game, struggled with off-field issues, and lost the drive to compete at a professional level. Caleb, by contrast, possesses superior physical tools, a stronger arm, and more durability. Athleticism and instinct alone are not the predictors of failure here. To make that comparison as if the outcome is inevitable is misleading at best. It's another example of the hyperbolic narrative surrounding him before we've even reached the start of the season. The bottom line is simple. Caleb Williams has a tremendous amount of talent. There are areas for improvement, certainly. He needs to refine his decision-making in the pocket, improve timing with his receivers, and continue adjusting to the speed of the NFL. But these are expected developmental steps, not red flags signaling a bust. His rookie year was played under extraordinarily challenging circumstances. Poor coaching, a disorganized offense, and instability at the top. Despite that, he performed admirably relative to expectations. And yet, the internet doesn't seem willing to exercise patience. Every minor misstep, every choppy practice, every decision about preseason participation becomes fodder for exaggerated takes, clickbait, and unwarranted skepticism. The level of scrutiny is relentless. It's gotten to a point where Caleb Williams is arguably the most attacked quarterback online before even fully stepping into his second NFL season. Critics have overlooked context, ignored explanations from coaching staff, and prioritized sensationalism over reason analysis. This type of coverage isn't just unhelpful, it can be damaging. It shifts public perception prematurely, pressures young players unnecessarily, and creates an environment where a narrative often outpaces reality. Caleb Williams, like any rookie or second-year quarterback, is still learning, growing, and adapting to the professional level. Judgments made now, without the evidence of game performance, are more speculation than informed evaluation. Fans and commentators should give both the player and the team time to implement their systems, adjust to new dynamics, and see results under real season conditions. So what does that leave us? It leaves us with a quarterback with immense potential, a coaching staff committed to his development, and a public discourse that, at times, has jumped too far ahead of reality. The hate, the speculation, the constant hypothetical scenarios, they need to be taken with a grain of salt. It's reasonable to critique when warranted, to analyze film, and to project possibilities. But there is a clear difference between thoughtful analysis and preemptive condemnation. At this point, the fairest and most accurate approach is patience. Caleb Williams is just getting started. He has tools, talent, and a team behind him to maximize that talent. The preseason is structured in a way that doesn't demand he play every snap. The early reports from camp are expected growing pains, not signs of doom. and comparisons to players who failed due to factors completely unrelated to skill are misleading. The noise online shouldn't define him. The preseason should be understood in context, and the first few games of the regular season are what will truly measure growth and success. Everything else, as of right now, is premature overreaction, an inflated narrative that doesn't yet reflect reality. As the preseason progresses, one of the most important things to understand about Caleb Williams is how much pressure he is under, both internally from the Bears organization and externally from the public. Expectations for first overall draft picks are always sky high, but in Caleb's case, the scrutiny has been magnified by a combination of media narratives, social media speculation, and comparisons to past quarterbacks who struggled under similar circumstances. Unlike many young quarterbacks, Caleb isn't given the luxury of a slow, gradual acclimation period where mistakes are overlooked and learning curves are respected. Every throw, every decision in practice, every look he gives off-field is analyzed, dissected, and often misinterpreted. The irony is that this is happening before the real stakes of the NFL season even begin. The preseason is supposed to be a testing ground, a period for evaluation and experimentation. It has become a stage for public debate, where Caleb is expected to prove his worth while also being criticized for not being fully revealed. One of the recurring themes that has emerged is a concern about Caleb's decision-making under pressure. Critics have pointed out moments in practice where he hesitated, overthrew a receiver, or held the ball too long. On the surface, these observations are not inherently wrong. Every quarterback has moments like this, but the way these moments are presented often lacks context. Defensive schemes in training camp are designed to confuse, misdirect, and exploit inexperience. Coaches intentionally put quarterbacks in situations where they must make split-second decisions against defenses they will face in the regular season. These scenarios are not failures. They are learning opportunities. Caleb's ability to adapt and respond in these high-pressure simulations is actually an encouraging sign of development, not a harbinger of disaster. Yet, in commentary circles, these minor mistakes are frequently elevated into narratives suggesting a lack of readiness or even a fundamental flaw in a skill set. It's a classic case of overemphasis on isolated data points rather than an objective analysis of progress. Another element that has fueled criticism is Caleb's mobility and playing style. Some analysts have implied that his athleticism is a crutch, suggesting that reliance on his legs might indicate a ceiling on his effectiveness as a traditional pocket passer. But this argument ignores the evolution of the NFL and the way modern offenses are structured. Dual-threat quarterbacks are not only viable, they are often transformational. Players like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts have demonstrated that mobility can coexist with elite passing ability, and in many cases, it creates opportunities that traditional quarterbacks cannot replicate. Caleb's willingness to extend plays, escape pressure, and create opportunities downfield is not a deficiency. It is a strength that, when properly integrated into a system, enhances overall offensive efficiency. The problem arises when commentators frame mobility as a liability rather than an asset, ignoring the strategic benefits it brings to his team. In addition, there has been a recurring discussion about Caleb's leadership qualities. Leadership in the NFL is often measured in subtle ways. How a quarterback communicates in the huddle, how he motivates teammates in practice, and how he responds to adversity. Early reports from Bears training camp indicate that Caleb is respected by his peers, listens to coaching feedback, and approaches preparation with a high level of professionalism. Yet, critics have questioned his maturity and leadership simply because he is not a vocal, flashy presence off the field. This is another example of narrative bias, the assumption that leadership must fit a preconceived archetype rather than recognizing that effective leadership can take many forms. Caleb leads by example, and that approach often goes unnoticed in a media landscape that favors dramatized personality traits over consistent, understated effectiveness. Off-field narratives have also played a significant role in shaping public perception. There have been whispers, innuendos, and unverified reports about Caleb's commitment, work ethic, and relationships with teammates. While speculation is inevitable in high-profile sports, it is critical to differentiate between verified facts and conjecture. Caleb has consistently demonstrated a disciplined approach to his professional responsibilities. He has invested countless hours in film study, workouts, and refining mechanics. He has engaged with teammates constructively and has embraced the learning process. Reports that frame him as unproven or immature often lack substantive evidence, yet they persist because controversy attracts attention, not because it accurately reflects reality. The narrative surrounding his transition from college to professional football has also been a point of contention. Caleb came from a successful college program where he dominated at a high level, leading to a dramatic rise in expectations. Comparisons to previous college stars WH. Brian Urlacher, dos maiores icons da historia do Chicago Bears, recentemente surpreendeu a NFL com uma declaração que rapidamente virou ação nos bastidores da liga. Em uma entrevista que circula pelas redes sociais, o ex-linebacker disse no ar uma mensagem contundente sobre o futuro do SCU time do coração, sugerindo que, sem investimento financeiro robusto e estratégico, os Bears dificilmente voltarão a brilhar e conquistar títulos. Urlacher, conhecido por sua postura franca e paiseo pelo time, levanta debate intenso sobre o que realmente falta para que a franquia volte a ser competitiva de verdade. A fala do ex-jogador soa como alerta direto para a diretoria e os torcedores. Numa época em que os Bears vivem altos e baixos, oscilando entre promessas neocompartas e campanhas medianas. Muitos especialistas da NFL já começaram a discutir esse, de fato, o Chicago Bears está disposto a abrir os cofres e trazer pecas de peso para transformar o elenco. O USC vai permanecer numa zona de conforto que não alimenta grandes conquistas. Urlacher parece apostar suas fichas na necessidade de assédio financeiro para que o time volte a disputar títulos com regularidade. Uma visão que pode incendiar ainda mais a torcida e a mídia em torno da franquia. A declaração de Brian Urlacher repercutiu rapidamente entre os fãs e analistas, fomentando burburinho que ganha cada vez mais força nas redes sociais e nas rodas de conversa esportivas. A sugestão do ex-linebacker de que o Chicago Bears deve fazer investimentos robustos e vista por muitos como sinal de que o time precisa de uma reestruturação profunda. Não só no elenco, mas também na gestão. Urlacher, que foi pilar defensivo durante sua carreira, tem autoridade para oponer os caminhos, já que conhece perto o ambiente do time e as dificuldades enfrentadas nos últimos anos. A dúvida que paira no ar a diretoria dos Bears está pronta para tomar decisões acertadas. Como contratacos caras e mudanças drásticas no staff técnico, a FIM de construir time capaz de sonhar alto novamente. O cenário atual da NFL, altamente competitivo e recheado de franquias dispostas a gastar fortunas para conquistar glória, torna esse debate ainda mais relevante. Urlacher, ao destacar a necessidade de investimento, também sugere que a equipe precisa pensa grande, focando em talentos da elite que possam fazer a diferença em campo. Além do apelo financeiro, o comentário de Urlacher carrega tom de urgência e realismo que poucos se atrevam a expor publicamente. A franquia do Chicago Bears, com sua rica história e tradição, encontra-se numa encruzilhada que pode definir os próximos anos do time. Urlacher não apenas aponta o dedo para a necessidade de gastar, mas também para a obrigação de pensar no futuro de forma estratégica, buscando equilíbrio entre experiência e juventude. Rumores já circulam sobre possíveis movimentos no mercado da NFL, como o nome dos Bears aparecendo em conversas sobre jogadores de destaque e agents livres cobicados. A voz de Urlacher pode acabar influenciando essas decisões, Colocando preseo, sobre os dirigentes para que atum com rapidez e inteligência. Enquanto isso, a torcida se divide entre o otimismo renovado pela fala do ídolo e o ceticismo devido aos resultados recentes. Esse clima de expectativa e tensão pode ser o combustível necessário para que o Chicago Bears retome o caminho das vitórias e, quem sabe, volte a disputar títulos importantes no cenário nacional. O impacto das palavras de Brian Urlacher também acenda debate maior sobre a cultura do Chicago Bears e sua postura diante da modernidade da NFL. Em tempos onde franquias milionárias investem pesado em tecnologia, scouting e performance física, a fala do ex-jogador ressoa como chamado para adaptaco e inovação. Urlacher sugere que neo basta ter tradicao ou historia. É preciso acompanhar as tendências atuais, o que implica investir neo, só em jogadores, mas também em infraestrutura, treinamento e analista de dados. Esse posicionamento levanta a hipótese de que o Bears talvez esteja atrasado em relação a outros times que vem dominando a liga, reforçando a ideia de que a franquia precisa acordar para uma nova realidade. O burburinho causado por sua declaração alimenta especulações sobre uma possível reformulação total da equipe e do modelo de gestão. Se isso acontecer, pode significar uma mudança radical, capaz de transformar a percepção que o mercado e os torcedores têm do time, renovando esperanças e expectativas para a temporada que está por vir e as seguintes. Por fim, as palavras de Brian Urlacher sobre o futuro do Chicago Bears reverberam como sinal de alerta e uma provocação para todos os envolvidos como franquia, do torcedor ao executivo. A ideia de que investir é condição essential para voltar a vencer, abre espaço para questionamentos sobre o que está sendo feito hoje e o que pode ser mudado. Rumores apontam que o time pode estar estudando novas estratégias para captação de recursos e parcerias que viabilizam contra-ataques de impacto. Enquanto isso, o debate na mídia e nas redes sociais cresce, com opiniões divergentes entre aqueles que querem ver o Bears adotando uma postura mais agressiva no mercado e os que defendem uma abordagem mais cautelosa. Seja qual for o caminho, a fala de Urlacher é catalisador para a movimentação e o engajamento em torno do time, que precisa urgentemente reencontrar esse lugar entre os grandes da NFL. A expectativa agora é para ver como a diretoria vai reagir a esse recado, e o Chicago Bears estar disposto a fazer o que for preciso para voltar a sonhar com títulos. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.